Okay, the countdown's here. So here we go. Bang. Week 6. It is time for the Week 6 Waiver Wire show, Waiver Wire special here on the Audible with Cecil Lammey, Sigmund Bloom, and Dr. Jene Bramel. Tons of stuff to get to as we get to windows that will last forever, windows that lasted 1 week, windows that lasted a half. Now, half Eddie. But before we jump into the hot waiver wire pickups this week in fantasy football, Dr. Jene Bramel joins us to talk about those injured QBs. Dr. Jene, take it away. All right, Sigmund, this is your upgrades, downgrades, and waiver wire report available at footballguys.com. And up at the top, a couple of names again, we're wide netting it, but Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, if they're out there, 3 to 5%ers this week.
Yeah, things are calming down now. Can you feel it? I mean, we're going to get some sort of burst or something through some unforeseen things, but now things are calming down. And I'm assuming here that Gardner Minshew is owned everywhere in fantasy leagues. If he's not, he would obviously be a top pickup. With Josh Allen, he played a nice, safe game going into a bye, so it might seem a little bit unorthodox to pick him up. But what you need to know here is that after the bye, Buffalo gets Miami, Philly, and Washington. So he could be very helpful if you're streaming right now, not this week, but to come. And Kirk Cousins, he can be helpful if you're streaming right now against the Philadelphia secondary this week. And we saw 27 attempts, and he was still an excellent fantasy quarterback. They went to the pass early. So, yes, we may see some balance. Kirk Cousins can still help your fantasy team.
Well, and the squeaky wheel got the grease in. So, yeah, and Kirk Cousins is probably out there. I know a lot of people were upset, and rightfully so, in the way that they weren't passing the ball. Now, let's get to 1%ers. And for a little while longer, although we got reports about Drew Brees, you're down there in New Orleans, Blooms. You can give us those reports. For a little while longer, it is Teddy Bridgewater. For the rest of the year, Andy Dalton, as long as he stays healthy. And then, wow, what a conversation we could have. More of a Thursday night show, but Dwayne Haskins, very deep 2 QB super flex leagues, even though they swear up and down they're not going to play him or they have to put packages in place, which makes me say, why weren't you already doing that? But anyway, Devlin Hodges, 1%, very deep 2 QB super flexes along with Colt McCoy.
And Cease, I feel like because the waiver wire is calming down, we can talk a little bit of football. What Teddy Bridgewater did last week was monumental. I mean, they found their quarterback. Wouldn't you say at this point it's cinched that he's the next era quarterback? The team has rallied around him. What do you think about that, Cease?
Yeah, well, I mean, it always should have been. He had to prove it, of course. You can't just blindly hand it to him. But if Teddy's back, Teddy's really good. We often forget what he did in Minnesota outdoors because they were still building their new stadium. And outdoors with a glove, talk about that weak arm. But Teddy Bridgewater's smart and accurate. And if there's quarterback scouting is crazy, but if you can just say, boil it down to 2 things, give me the smart and accurate guy.
Yeah, so it's beautiful to see that. And, this is a situation where will he have that kind of fantasy ceiling most weeks? We're looking maybe Tampa as a defense to target. They're playing Carolina this week, though. So maybe Kyle Allen should be on here as a 1%er in London if you're streaming. But Teddy might have some more persistent value this week against Jacksonville is interesting, especially if Jalen Ramsey isn't playing. Then you get Chicago, not so much, but then Arizona. So you maybe pick up Teddy just for that week 8 matchup against Arizona. Also, Andy Dalton, you feel bad for Andy Dalton because 3 times Cincinnati is in that derby for the number 1 pick. They're going to move ahead of somebody probably this week with Washington and Miami playing, maybe ahead of both of them if they tie. And Dalton has led 3 almost comebacks. This one without John Ross. And this week he gets the Baltimore defense. So you could do worse. Deeper leagues, the Washington quarterback situation. It's going to be Colt McCoy for now. It should be Dwayne Haskins eventually because when the owner and the coach disagree and they end up firing the coach, then the owner's going to get his way. We're going to see Haskins at some point. And Duck Hodges. Wow. Here we go. Cease. Duck Hodges against the Chargers. It's not a great matchup. It's not a bad matchup. But Mason Rudolph, I doubt he'll miss more than a week. Maybe he'll even play after how scary that looked. But I would expect that Hodges, it's every quarterback has value. Every starting quarterback has value into a quarterback superflex. Hodges does too. And I'll be right back.
He'll be right back. And that's how we do it live on this show. And what also Bloom mentioned about Andy Dalton, we need to, throw in there as well. He's done it without AJ Green. So, you would imagine whenever AJ Green comes back, whatever that may be, and their reports are getting a little bit, I don't know, more solid on AJ Green. At least they're trimming down the timelines, because the timelines for AJ Green went from he's never coming back, basically. Yeah. Like, who knows when he's coming back, to now it's like, well, he's going to miss this week. You know what I mean? I was just talking about AJ Green, Bloom, and like, you mentioned Andy Dalton and those near wins. Like, he did it without John Ross, but he's also done it all of them without AJ Green. But now, like, the reports, instead of like super, I don't know when AJ Green's going to come back, now it's, well, he's not going to be back this week. Yeah. So it seems like it's narrow. I mean, we're getting to a tipping point with Green. It's like, I know you don't have a contract for next year, but it's almost time for AJ Green to come back, which feeds into Andy Dalton.
Or even getting traded, and maybe the offensive line could get better. Although it seems at some point we may start talking about Ryan Finley. I know the Bengals, I want to say that they were on hand to scout both quarterbacks at the Utah State LSU game. LSU's got a quarterback seat, but so does Utah State.
Utah State's and Jordan Love picking up a lot of love. Let's move on to the running back position. And, well, this position's always an interesting one, and we've got to go over the injured running backs first, which means Dr. Jene Bramel joins us once again to do just that. Okay, Bloom, top of your list, 20 to 40%. We saw him on Monday night. Tevin Coleman, yeah, baby. And we know, okay, well, how's this going to go? Matt Bryant is still going to do his thing. Tevin Coleman's going to be really involved, so 20 to 40% for him. 20 to 40% for Chase Edmonds, as we got a banged up David Johnson and Jordan Howard. 20 to 40% because, well, they figured it out.
Yeah.
Let's just use this guy and use him the right way. And of course, use him as a battering ram. So there he is at 20 to 40% if he's out there.
So you have some varied ceiling and floor here in the 20 to 40% tier. I guess this most straightforward one is Jordan Howard. It would take a Miles Sanders injury for him to have a higher ceiling. Not impossible, but what's good here is you have flex or even running back 2 value depending on the matchup. Against Minnesota, I'm more flex, but this is the guy. See, we love Doug Peterson because you do see rational coaching. Rational coaching is Miles Sanders one day could unlock all the value of the Philly offensive line and more. Today is not that day. Jordan Howard can, with his discipline running and his physical finishing. He's going to finish drives. He's going to finish games. He's going to have lasting value. Then you've got Tevin Coleman. Now, Tevin Coleman, you've got San Francisco defense. You've got San Francisco running game. San Francisco's been supporting 1, 2, even 3 fantasy running backs of being relevant. So these things are all feeding into Tevin Coleman having weekly flex value. Then you've got the Matt Breida injury upside. Now you also have Matt Breida having Tevin Coleman injury upside. We'll talk about Raheem Mostert in a few minutes. And then there's Chase Edmonds. Now, Chase Edmonds, I think we have one part of his value that Cliff Kingsbury, some rational coaching here. Edmonds is one of the 3 or 4 best weapons they have in that offense. He should be on the field a lot. He should be touching the ball a lot. And then when he breaks a 37-yard touchdown, important play in last week's win, the first win of the season, that also supports the idea that his role is going to grow. Then you have David Johnson. Ooh, my back. David Johnson coming off his best game. But so there's a lot of ways for Chase Edmonds. He has the highest ceiling of any of these guys, but maybe he has the lowest floor just because of what's going on in Arizona. Although this week against Atlanta, you want to play him. So we do have some running backs bubbling up, but hopefully if you listened to the Waiver Wire show last week, you already got Chase Edmonds and Jordan Howard.
Well, and hopefully you've been listening to us go on and on about Devin Singletary, but he's holding steady, Bloom, 20 to 40%.
Yeah, and it's just because he should be back after the bye. And I like that Buffalo, by the way, Cease, did you see the Shaq Lawson Taylor Lewan Twitter battle fight? Yes. And the ownership, even the ownership of the Bills getting, I'm telling you, take our Steelers allegiance. Although now that loss to the 49ers doesn't look so bad, does it? But with Singletary, he's not going to take over this backfield. But at the same time, he showed in the first 2 games he doesn't need to take over the backfield to have fantasy value. And his arrow should be pointing up. I like that they didn't play him because he was only getting limited practices. Now coming out of the bye this week, in week 7, he should be full speed, ready to go and pick up where he left off.
Not going to take over the backfield yet. Yet. And that's why I love Dynasty, because you can see it. You can definitely see it. Let's talk about the rest of the list. And here's Kenyon Drake at 15 to 30%. Yeah, actually, a Dolphin. 10 to 20% for Alexander Madison. Please pick him up. Let's talk about those two before we get to the rest.
Yeah, and I think that, the key here is with Drake, they're facing Washington this week. So you would want to plug him right in. There's also some chance of a trade, although I think less than we probably would want. He's at least a flex play. And I remember Kalen Ballage was playing so poorly that I think we've got Drake unquestioned in this backfield. So not that it was a great profitable play for fantasy, but if you were doing your preseason analysis and said Kalen Ballage is not gonna, no matter what the coaches say or what they're doing in camp in the preseason, he's not a threat to Drake. He hasn't been a threat to Drake. The Dolphins team is a threat to Drake. Then we have Madison. And I think we have things looking up now with a more balanced offense for the Vikings. And he just is a mainstay here on the waiver wire show because he's that highest priority handcuff because of Dalvin Cook's injury history. And again, that Vikings running game still looking very, very good.
Next segment is 5 to 10 percenters, including Carlos Hyde. Although, man, I'd love to see more Duke Johnson Jr. Adrian Peterson. Okay, new coach. What do you do? Let's just lean on the veteran. All right, if he's out there, 5 to 10%. And then Ito Smith continuing with that value, and he's a 5 to 10 percenter too.
Yeah, and if Duke Johnson is out there, 5 to 10%, 3 to 5%. I mean, you probably have to say it's smarter to roster Hyde over Duke Johnson right now because Hyde is getting those carries in the good game scripts. And after what happened last week, what did Marlon Mack get? He's 29 carries. So 22, the over-under for Houston, as long as they play well. You would think that part of the game plan this week is going to be feeding Carlos Hyde a lot, although you're feeding him for like 3 yards a carry instead of the 4+ that Marlon Mack got. So you like Carlos Hyde for this week, and you like the role he's playing. And as this offense is looking up, although it's Atlanta's going to make every offense look up. As you said, the rational coaching we wish we had here was that Duke Johnson would be the guy with the arrow pointing up, as he is still looking very good. Adrian Peterson, you pick him up mainly because you get to play him against Miami this week, but also, see, Bill Callahan knows a thing or two about establishing the run, and even if it's just 2 or 3 quarters, Washington has been competitive in the first half of their games for the most part. So Adrian Peterson with Bill Callahan, that's something to take note of. Ito Smith getting about half of the snaps. You're seeing Devontae Freeman getting some touchdowns, getting some receptions, a touchdown. But at the same time, Ito Smith looks better as a runner, although the Atlanta running game probably isn't going to get out of neutral this year. I do think at some point that the scales will tip where Ito Smith is the more valuable running back on the Falcons roster. I'm not really sure how valuable that will be overall.
Whenever you watch Christian McCaffrey do his thing, you're like, great, don't run him into the ground just yet. That's why Reggie Bonifan's on your list, 1%. Tariq the Freak Cohen, 1%. John Hilliman, 1%, as we navigate through that Giants backfield. Jordan Wilkins there too. Bloom, I'll throw in my special half percenter. Mark Walton.
Yeah, and that's fair, especially with the garbage time game scripts. And he's a good running back as far as on the field talent. And then again, Raheem Mostert remains a 1% guy because really, how long is it going to be that both Matt Breida and Tevin Coleman are healthy? The running game is good, and of course, it's Mostert's good. I mean, he looks good. Right. So looking at these 1%ers, Reggie Bonifant looked swift. I mean, it was late in the fourth quarter, and the Jags were tired of chasing Christian McCaffrey around. But if McCaffrey does go down, remember, he sat out a drive or two at the end of that game. I think he was just exhausted. He can only do so much. It's like, come on, guys, I can only do so much for this team. Tariq Cohen, we'll see if Chase Daniel starts on the other side of the bye. If he does, then you still have some PPR value there with him. John Hillman, it sounds like he's going to start against the Patriots, which should be what, Cease, like 9 carries for 7 yards and maybe like 2 catches for 3 yards. I don't know, but hey, volume's volume. Starting running back's a starting running back. Wayne Gallman showed that in a much easier matchup against Washington. So Hilliman is out there. And then Jordan Wilkins, he had a touchdown in this game. And Marlon Mack looks fantastic. I mean, the most optimistic view of Marlon Mack coming out of South Florida would have been this running back that we have. But He's also getting a lot of work. He's also had a couple of leg injuries. I won't be surprised if we see Jordan Wilkins start at some point this year, even though Mac is getting that bye week to lick his wounds.
Colts on their way, and we're on our way to talk to Dr. Jene Bramel about the wide receiver position because there's some injured wide receivers we need to go over. Dr. Jene, you're up. Okay, Bloom, on your waiver wire upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report available at footballguys.com. Just one segment on this guy because he's so damn good.
Yeah.
And just in case he's out there, Michael Gallup, we have to wide net it because fantasy GMs are fickle. The guy was banged up for 3 weeks? So now he's back. We're back and in a big way with Michael Gallup. Check if he's out there, 25 to 50%.
Exactly. If he was dropped because of the injury situation, then you snap him back up. You spend a lot of money to do it. He looks good. He looks good right out of the gate. And although some of his production was Dallas garbage time, really, that's basically what entire games are against the Jets. We'll see if Sam Darnold plays. I guess Sam Darnold also could be a 1%er in the quarterbacks, by the way. I'm not sure when he's going to come back. We'll check in on his spleen. But in the meantime, Michael Gallup, yeah, he is for real. And that's going to help the Dallas. What was the poll? Sees is Dallas a good bad team or a bad good team? They've got to face some good teams before we know. The Jets, unfortunately, not one of them.
Well, he good. Calvin Ridley, 12 to 25%. He's might be out there in your league. Deshaun Jackson could be as well. Speaking of missing time, he should be back very soon. 10 to 20% for him. D.D. Westbrook's not all just about DJ Chark mostly, but then D.D. Westbrook is a 10 to 20%er. And let's throw in holding steady Robbie Anderson because of what you said about Darnold, and he's coming back soon enough.
Yeah, remember what they did in December. You don't pick up Anderson to play him in the first week back with Darnold, but you know that eventually some really good things could happen here. Anderson is extremely talented. Calvin Ridley is extremely talented. He got that touchdown. Now, it was kind of garbage time touchdown against Houston, but you like to see the arrow pointing up here. And he's got Arizona this week. So maybe I'm being a little conservative on Ridley if he was dropped during his slump. Deshaun Jackson, we're going to remember 2 touchdowns, and it looked easy. It was Washington, but it looked easy in week 1 before Deshaun Jackson got hurt. I think they're saying 50-50-ish for this week, but once he's back again, that connection is fantastic. A little tough schedule coming up, but Wentz to Jackson can overcome that. D.D. Westbrook, Minshew mania, and he's getting more consistent volume. And you have to think that defenses are going to treat DJ Chark like a number 1 receiver, which means we'll probably see a lot of Marshawn Lattimore this week, which means D.D. Westbrook could be the top target for Minshew.
Okay, kind of an interesting group here, different percentages. Golden Tate at 7 to 15%. We should see that role grow as he gets, back into playing shape and all those sorts of things. Byron Pringle out there, 5 to 10%, along with holding steady. Louder with Crowder, Jamison Crowder at 5 to 10%. And then let's go ahead and throw in Darius Slayton. Very interesting name, very interesting player, and he's 3 to 5% this week.
Yeah, this is an interesting group, as you said, and some of it requires some faith, some of it requires some foresight. With Golden Tate, man, I hate seeing this with Sterling Shepard, second concussion this year, and they're saying extended absence right off the bat. So that means you're going to see Golden Tate as the top target, that top underneath target and thirds down, especially. Now this week against the Patriots, I'm not sure I would plug Golden Tate right in there. They didn't quite seem to be on the same page, but I'm expecting we're not going to see Sterling Shepard for a while. Byron Pringle, and Cease, I know we've hit this note on the show before. If Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball to a guy, you want that guy on your fantasy team. It's just, if Gator Dieter gets called up eventually, then we're going to say pick him up. And with Byron Pringle, the fantasy gods giveth and they taketh away, right? Tyreek Hill probably coming back this week. Sammy Watkins, we'll see. The revolving door. The thing is, Pringle was riffing well with Mahomes, and really, he looks like from your dynasty league standpoint, he's an NFL receiver that's here to stay. And it was really only an injury in the preseason last year that kept him from arriving last year. So whether it's Darrell Williams, maybe not Darwin Thompson, while both of the veteran backs are healthy, or Byron Pringle or Demarcus Robinson or Mecole Hardman, be patient with your Chiefs, because when things line up, Pringle was a fantastic play last week, even while the Chiefs were having trouble getting anything done. And then separating himself from the 1%ers, Darius Slayton, and he did show some chemistry with Daniel Jones. And maybe I have it backwards. Maybe Slayton should be the 7 to 15%er, and Tate should be the 3-5%er. I'm giving Tate more respect here because of his record as an NFL player, but Slayton has the deep game, and Slayton has better chemistry as a fellow rookie with Daniel Jones. You can see it on the field. So do not overlook the Auburn product, who, he's the speed. We knew it was there. He's shown some pretty good hands too.
Well, you talk about Auburn, I want to talk about Kansas State. I mean, my God, with Pringle, and then, of course, Tyler Lockett, who's been doing his thing. By the way, Brick makes my heart warm right here.
Yeah.
When he says Eddie Vedder and Barry Gibb talking fantasy football. What a combo.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
I was doing the math. I'm going to do it, because I'm going to embarrass myself. But that made me think of the math. You're like, staying alive. Oh, I'm still alive. And you see the, by the way, as an aside, because I embarrassed myself, I'll make it serious. Check out the Storytellers. Or not Storytellers, that's the VH1. Was it Unplugged?
Yeah.
The Pearl Jam Unplugged. I'm going to get like verklempt thinking about this, because Eddie Vedder talks about how that song, we're old enough to remember Pearl Jam 10. That was captivating. Saw my first Pearl Jam show 2 days before my first Fish show. Never saw another Pearl Jam show again. That song, I'm Still Alive, was a sad song. A song where the sentiment was like, well, I'm still alive, And he said that the audience singing it in this more uplifting, self-affirming way changed the song. It changed the song for him. And it's like these songs, rest in peace, Robert Hunter, sometimes the songs that we sing are just songs of our own. So there's our little music interlude. We really just want to do a music podcast, don't we?
We do. And a movie review podcast, because I've seen Joker now twice. I'm going to go see it a third time as well, maybe even more. But anyway, let's get back to your list in our waiver wire show. Of course, Kiki Cutie's on here, but he should be. He should be 1%. Yeah. Devontae Parker, 1%. Auden Tate, 1%. Demaryius Thomas and Duke Williams and Preston Williams. Don't forget about him, the only Dolphins player I care about, other than Mark Walton. And Duke Williams, the Edmonton Eskimo CFL leading receiver. He had like 88 catches last year up in Canada. And man, does he look big and physical for the Bills. So yeah, Duke Williams, 1%.
Again, with the Bills and the way they run things, right? Like, talk about decisiveness. I mean, Zay Jones, it was nice. We spent a second-round pick on you. Didn't really work out. Here's a fifth-rounder so that you can go to Oakland. They get a fifth-rounder out of Zay Jones. Maybe Zay Jones should be a 1%er. Oakland's going into their bye. So just keep a tab on him if you liked him. Kiki Cutie, you saw the speed after the catch. We'll see if Kenny Stills is back. But if it's Kansas City, Houston, and Cutie is the number 3 receiver. Now, granted, getting about half the snaps because they're using more 2 tight end sets. I'm interested. Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, they're playing Washington. What the heck, wide receiver 3 flex. Auden Tate should have had 2 touchdowns. Gets to play Baltimore this week. Watch out. By the way, Auden, if Marlon Humphrey is on you, he might try to punch the ball out. It might become important at some point. Word of the wise. Demaryius Thomas, he still got game. And, with I had forgotten Jamison Crowder, by the way, in the 5 to 10% guys as a PPR play. So remember, with Sam Darnold coming back, these Jets receivers might have some value, including Demaryius Thomas, who I don't think is giving anybody mono.
Well, let's go on to talk about the injured tight ends here entering week 6. And that means Dr. Jene Bramel joins us once again to talk about those banged up tight ends. Dr. Jene, what do we got? Okay, Bloom, top of your list here as we're having fun on this program talking about Gerald Everett. 15 to 30%. He's got to deserve his own segment.
Yeah. So this is one of those ones where faith and folks, this is like, you don't care about my fantasy team, but I just have to say that Gerald Everett has been on and off at the end of my dynasty rosters for the last 2 years, because on one hand, he's sharing with Tyler Higbee, and he's in the Rams 3 wide receiver and Todd Gurley attack. So how is he going to get opportunity? But on the other hand, he was a second-round pick. The Rams actually took him in the second round when they had no first-round pick. I want to say it was the first pick of the McVay era, I believe. And well, they had a plan for him. There's like they have a plan for Darrell Henderson, right? They have a plan for him. The plan never came to fruition. Finally, when they assign Higbee to the extension on my dynasty teams, I say, well, we can move on from Everett now. And actually, Higbee was hurt, and even while Higbee was hurt, Everett didn't come alive. Higbee comes back, boom. and some of it was the Brandon Cooks injury. Okay, but you put that genie back in the bottle. Everett's going to be a great matchup for them. He's a receiving tight end. And what was he? See, South Alabama. Remember that correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. The Jaguars, are they the Jaguars?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the point is this. The point is this. By the way, I want to give a shout out, since I'm talking about Jaguars, to Matt Price, the zookeeper, because down here in New Orleans, I've already mentioned Valerio. Remember Valerio, the Jaguar that got loose in the Audubon Zoo and killed a bunch of like alpacas and llamas and stuff? And actually, Matt Price, the zookeeper, look him up on Twitter, folks. I think he's at DLF, does great stuff. He raised Valerio when Valerio was in at the San Diego Zoo. So he has pictures of little Valerio the killer. That's like another Neil Young reference, Valerio the killer. Anyway, instead of Cortez. So Everett's here, and will the Rams put him back in the bottle? Will the Rams stop using him as a core receiver? I don't know, but he looked good. He was winning his matchups consistently. And if you're looking for hope on the waiver wire at tight end, you have it in the form of Gerald Everett.
Now I'm just thinking of Conan's girlfriend Valeria from Conan the Barbarian. So
to what is it? What do you want? I want to hear what vanquished. I don't know. See, it's not in me to want to like conquer people like Conan, so I can never remember the quote. I can't even try to do the quote.
To hear the lamentations of the women's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To crush your enemies, to see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of the women's. Tells you a lot about what I think about all the time. Conan the Barbarian. I just want to run around in a loincloth.
Yeah,
that's really it.
Pumping iron seats, remember.
Actually, I have asked, because, I'm like, I'm old, whatever. The holidays are more about the kids, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I did suggest to my significant others and to my family, like, if you wanted to buy me Conan's sword, or his father's sword, because I want both of them.
Right.
That would be a nice, Christmas present.
Was it Wilt Chamberlain and Conan the Destroyer?
It was in the Destroyer. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
It was incredible.
Growing up in the era, see, you can tell there's not much going on the waiver wire because we're waxing nostalgic here. Growing up in the era of the Stallone, Schwarzenegger action movies was just, I had this Predator poster on my wall. I loved it.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Carl Weathers, Jesse the Body.
Well, let's get to Chris Herndon time, people. Everyone's been waiting. 3 to 5% though. 5 to 10% for Hunter Henry, who should be back soon, and Jared Cook is 5 to 10% if he's out there. But Herndon, a lot of people are waiting for the Herndon era.
Yeah, and again, we're looking at the Jets passing game actually having some life again. So Herndon more 3 to 5% because they're not committing to him being back in week 6, and Gase, you can't necessarily trust him. So you can't trust that if you pick up Herndon, you have your tight end for this week. You don't have your tight end for this week if you pick up Hunter Henry, but you may have a tight end in a week or 2, maybe 3. They didn't put him on IR, and it looks like he's going to beat the time frame so that it looks like the wise decision to not put him on IR. Then there's Jared Cook. I already talked about Teddy Bridgewater. I want to say a Cook to Bridgewater, a Bridgewater to Cook combo won the Millie Maker. So congratulations for believing in Teddy and Cook. And you have some value there. Again, remember, Arizona looms. So even if you just pick up Jared Cook to have him, if you're not set at tight end for that Arizona matchup, and why not the Jacksonville matchup too? But you also have maybe some persistent value now that he's gotten jump started when Drew Brees comes back. So some help at tight end on the waiver wire this week.
Some more help on the waiver wire coming up at the tight end position, and just, a little bit further down, but don't forget Tyler Higbee, Vance McDonald, Darren Fells, no 1%er, Foster Moreau 1%er as well, as we're seeing that split now there with Oakland. But Fells, people might wonder, Bloom, why is he not a little bit higher?
Well, because you have 3 weeks of 0 or 1 catches, and then you have a week with 5 for 49 and a touch, and a week with 2 touchdowns. And you have to like him in terms of he's going to be on the field as the starting tight end, and they're going with more 2 tight end sets. But it's clear that you're rolling the dice, and the dice basically just has a 6 or a 1 on it. Tyler Higbee has 2 decent back-to-back games. They were games that Jared Goff had to throw the ball a ton, but with the Rams defense, we'll see against San Francisco this week. That might be the norm. Vance McDonald, Duck Hodges, he had 3 for 34 last week, looked better. And, I think that teams are going to continue to try to take away Juju. We'll see about Deontay Johnson and how he does. He's probably we'll be talking about him a little bit later in the show. And Vance McDonald has some potential value. Foster Moreau. Now they did just get Zay Jones. They may get Tyrell Williams back after the bye. But if the wide receivers continue to be not very fertile ground for this pass offense, it could be more two tight end. Foster Moreau is arriving already.
It's about that time where you look over this, the show, you look over your waiver wire, you look over your team, and, well, you may be like our man Josh, who actually had to leave our chat room a little bit early because he's going to download and listen tomorrow.
Yeah.
While he's flying to Minnesota. Play a game of see who the air marshal is on board. Please, nobody get kicked off a flight if you do this. But this is our audience participation moment in this program because, well, I know fantasy GMs, we're all fickle. You know, you guy fumbles, LaShawn McCoy fumbles. You're like, get him out of here. I want him off my team. Like, okay, maybe not that extreme, but maybe that extreme. Like, I definitely know a lot of fickle fantasy GMs out there. So you look over it, and some guys, it's worthy. What you're about ready to do, and to get rid of them, it's worthy because they're not cutting it, they're not getting it done. You need the dubs. You need to get back on track. So it's cathartic, Bloom. Yes. Really, when you get to yell this or say it or whisper it or just even think it. You know, I get it. Maybe I'm at work and corporate's in, and I don't really want to say this because then people are going to ask questions. And so maybe you can just think it, but all of us use the power of consciousness to say it with me. Cue the Chuck D! All right, Bloom, you're week 6. Shut him down. So who you got?
Yeah, cathartic. And, you know, I hear a lot, by the way, poor O.J. Howard. But O.J. Howard he's the cathartic drop of the year. I guess it comes with the investment. Not a lot of clear drops at quarterback. You know, maybe the Colts' success means Jacoby Brissett. If you've been holding him as a number 2, you might not be holding him through the bye. Running back, I'm ready to cut bait on Damian Harris. Watch, something's going to happen this week, and he's going to be his week. Probably ready with Justice Hill, just because he's the clear third running back. We're waiting for injuries. He's not going to get that roll out of the box. Henderson, probably a drop. Still holding on to Darwin Thompson out of these 4. I know that we're not done talking about them on the waiver wire, but as we go through the bye week gauntlet, it's more difficult to hold these guys. You can drop Wayne Gallman, you can drop Rex Burkhead. You could probably at wide receiver, you can drop Cole Beasley. I think with Duke Williams emerging, I didn't mention that, by the way, about the Bills with Duke Williams getting that game-winning touchdown too. He's going to continue to get trust. You know, you had your Titans come back to life for a week, and then back. Tennessee going against Denver this week. Probably not a great week for the passing game. A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, in your short bench leagues, especially with Deshaun Jackson coming back soon, with Philly facing Minnesota. Nelson Aguilar probably dropped. Zach Pascal, I mean, it was good news for the Colts. They didn't really need to pass a lot. Pascal didn't need much. Plus, T.Y. Hilton was back. Lots of tight ends every week. Seems we could have our own segment on the tight end, shut them down. Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle, again, with T.Y. Hilton back, there's not much there. Dawson Knox, and it's just holding him through the bye, and you're not sure what you're going to get. Lee Smith got the touchdown. O.J. Howard, if you haven't dropped him yet. Ben Watson, you picked him up anticipating that he was going to be part of the Patriots attack, but they didn't activate him. Cease $1.9 million. Could they be saving that for a salary for a trade?
You never know. Never, ever know. And then sometimes you do know, because it's all about your heart, right? We're emotional guys, Bloom. It's okay. It's all right. It doesn't mean less of a man. I've often thought that, like men who clearly aren't in touch with their emotions, it's like, no. It's about emotional control, knowing how much to feel, knowing when to feel it. Yeah. That's what it's about. It's not about shutting off your feelings. Like, no, go ahead and feel. Because in fantasy football, you definitely get the feels for some of your players, and you just can't click on that little negative bar. You just can't click to let these guys go. So who are some of your week 6 hold-ons?
Yeah, and see, my father taught me, if you feel like you need to cry, cry. So that's our
father taught me, if you feel like you need to cry, you're a pussy.
Right. So it's a different time, the year 2019.
Sorry, Joe, for saying Pussy Willow. Yeah. There. See, I saved it. YouTube, don't demonetize us, please, for the love of God.
It's if you've seen my cats here behind us. So holding on. And this can sometimes be very strategic. You want to make sure, especially sometimes you're looking at the schedule, you're looking at some of these things. Hold on to Jalen Samuels just because James Conner's been on the injury report, even though it looked bad. Now, again, would I rather have Jalen Samuels, like if I don't need Smith this week as a flex player, something like that. Like I believe that Samuels has a higher ceiling. Hold on to Ronald Jones. I know we're getting tired of Tampa and this hot hand approach. Don't do a drop out of frustration. He has the look of a player that really could eventually take over. I already mentioned Raheem Mostert in your deeper leagues. Look, LaShawn McCoy is a hold. And we're asking Andy Reid for rational coaching seats, but who's the best running back between the tackles on the Chiefs roster?
Darrell Williams.
Okay, that's fine. Hold Darrell Williams then. See? Either way, my point is we're going to err on the side of holding Chiefs running backs, especially LSU running backs. And he's 225 or so. So you're getting into the motorboat zone there with Darrell Williams. Hold on to your Chiefs running backs, folks, including Damian Williams, just because of his value in the passing game. Wide receiver, I'm going to hold on to Curtis Samuel. We saw how good the passing game for New Orleans looked against Tampa. That could be Curtis Samuel going off. Probably hold on to Deontay Johnson. Look, even with Doug Hodges out there, defenses are going to focus on Juju. He didn't do much against Baltimore. At least he got 5 catches. So there could be something there. Probably going to hold on to Valdez-Scantling and Geronimo Allison. I know it seems counterintuitive, but they're probably going to be helped by Devontae Adams coming back. And if there's anything hurting them right now, it's just that this defense is so good that they're not in many games. They've just had that one game against Philadelphia where it was on Aaron Rodgers to keep them in the game. And at tight end, I might hold on to Delaney Walker because Denver. So I know Delaney Walker hasn't done much the last 2 weeks, but this could be the week. And maybe Greg Olsen again, just because, hey, if Jared Cook can score a touchdown against Tampa, then Greg Olsen can, even with Kyle Allen.
Oh, Bloom, now you got me thinking.
Yeah.
Now you got me thinking. Do you
We're all
realize
nostalgic, yeah.
Yes. Do you realize I've only been bucked off twice in my life, and it was by the same horse?
What was the horse's name?
Wrangler. And he was gray. He had some thoroughbred blood, so he was pretty athletic, and I was 15. And I'd never been bucked off before, and sitting in a round pen cutting cows, and had the hired man, had my dad around me, and Wrangler super cat quick, right? So he jumped to the side because we're cutting cows. And so he jumps to the side, and it just like flips me under him or like flips me over to the side, and he starts bucking. I ended up with my foot caught in the stirrup.
Oh, no.
And I was under him while he was up with all fours like this, and he was going to land on me. So when you hit the ground, I was always taught, like, you hit the ground, start rolling, get out of trouble, right? So I rolled, and we had a low wood fence. So when I rolled, after hitting the ground, I hit the fence. Wrangler landed on my feet, basically. And I remember being 15, pushing myself under the fence. And I was just like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Mm-hmm. Because, all the guys were around me. And I ended up crying, of course, because I just got landed on by a horse.
Yeah.
But I just remember just having that impulse, like, oh my God. And, I think it was okay. It was warranted.
It was okay. Emotions are another form of intelligence. And emotions are another way that our soul can speak to us. Sometimes our emotions are a way that our soul can overwhelm us, but and maybe take the wheel whenever we don't want them to. So, like you said, we always have to be at the wheel. But it's especially okay to cry when we almost died.
Right. That happened more than once growing up on the ranch. And that's why I say, like, emotional control. It's knowing how much to feel and when to feel, and what time is appropriate to do that. So take the good and take the bad. Take them both. And there you have the Audible. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird ending to today's show.
Mrs. Garrett was always Mrs. Garrett is one of my parental figures in my life.
All right, that is a wrap for today's program. We thank you guys for listening. Sorry if anyone was offended by my language. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. Dr. Jene Bramel is at Jene Bramel, and I'm at Cecil Lammey saying thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And yes, truly, really on the couch, Travis. We really are on the couch. least I am anyway. And we do have all the feels. So thank you guys for the chat room. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, and please comment if you're in the chat room. Comment now, because that's the way it helps boost the channel. YouTube's algorithms, they don't want to promote independent creators. They want to promote corporate shows. So let's fight back against the man as much as we can against our Google overlords, and we'll get it done. All right. Thanks for watching. We're the Audible. Stay tuned. Stay frosty.
Very good.